Hey YouTubers, I had a request from one of my subscribers to explain why my 1935 set, when I stopped it, why all the cars uh, slid up against each other, and which is not what you would find with your typical Marx tab and slot couplers. That's because in 1935 Marx was using a joyline coupler. Louis Marx was a salesman for joyline trains, and in 1934, when they were going through bankruptcy, Louis Marx bought them out, and he completely redesigned the trains. This Commodore Vanderbilt was his redesign for 1935, and all these cars were redesigned for 1935. However, they kept the old joyline couplers. And I'm going to have to show you on the computer what joyline trains look like. And as you can see, they're rather old-fashioned looking and extremely toy-like. What I loved was the box car had a sign on the side, Hobo's Rest. The tanker car was Ever Full tanker car, contractor dump car. The dump car was called contractor dump car, and the gondola was called the Venice gondola. And the caboose was called Eagle Eye Caboose. I think that was pretty clever. So, but anyway, this is what Louis bought out. They also had passenger sets. 99% of them were clockwork. And we'll get into the reason why they were using this joyline coupler, because of the clockwork. I believe in 34 or around that time they made a few sets that were electric. So let's get back to my 1935 Marx set, and let's run it around, and you'll see what happens when it stops. All the cars are going to slide into each other. There we go. Let's try that again. Let me back it up actually. Oops. Slid my wheel off. And push this from the back. They're all almost touching each other. Not quite. Not enough to scratch the paint. So there's a reason for this. And I never knew this. I asked the Marx group why these joyline couplers worked the way they did and slid in and out of the bodies. And the reason they did, because the early joyline wind-up trains needed to get going and not pull all the cars at once. Let's back this up and pretend this electric is a wind-up. So this starts out, and I should explain all the 1935s were Commodore Vanderbilts, and they had these swing peg couplers at the back, and it swings and it's a peg, so it's pretty easy to understand. So They're all up against each other. It starts out and it gives it a little bit of go before they start see that? And that's pulled out. This hasn't quite pulled out. It will. There you go. As it gets going. But it's simple physics. It just simply gave the wind-up train a little bit of help. And like I said, 99% of these were wind-up trains. My locomotive happens to be in a very small percentage, and it's a electric. And you'll see a little switch up here, which is the reversing switch. So you've seen them sideways. Hold this over them. I'm not sure how good this will take. This will film this. You'll see big loops and tabs that go down into the loops. I'm going to pull some cars out so you can see them from the side. Let's move this train out of the way. Now, here is a car with a swing peg coupler, and I simply have to hold it down for the coupler to fall out. And you also see that it has a slot for it to slide on the bottom. You'll notice that big rectangular thing in the middle. That did not come with the train. That's a magnet that I use to keep the trains on the track because they're so light. And you can see this coupler over here, how it swings from side to side. It's all the way up at the top. Let's shake it a little. Get it to go down to the bottom. Now it's loose. Now you can get a very good look at what the swing peg coupler look like. And I'm going to pull it back inside the frame, which I should also say back inside the body and the frame. Only in 1935 did they make these couplers that would go inside the shell itself on top of the frame. So let's put this back. There is one exception. The 552 Rock Island. For some reason, and I'm guessing because kids like to put stuff in them, carry them around, Marx put the little coupler, attached it to the bottom floor of the shell, and it will not go back and forth. It will only go from side to side, and you can see it, and it will swing back and forth, but that's all it'll do. So that's the exception to the rule for all of them. All cars made in 1935. So what did Lionel do? Pardon me, Lionel. What did Marx do later with their tab and slot coupler cars? Well, I'm going to put a rag out of here so I protect my cars. And I'll show you. This was from what a lot of people like to call wind-up sets. I call them clockworks. And you'll see a simple tab and slot coupler which recedes back underneath the shell and underneath the frame. Let me hold this down to get it to come out. There we go. Where there's a will, there's a way. And now you can see there's just a simple little slot in here, and there's a tab there. That's where they get their name, tab and slot couplers. And you'll see the same thing on the other side. Now, here is what you will generally find on a Marx tin plate tab and slot coupler car. This is my 547 baggage car, which I believe was made around 1936. And you'll see that the whole coupler is attached to the bottom and swings from side to side. They simply used a rivet. And these are my favorites. They're much easier to couple. Let me set this back out of the way, and I will show you a Marx train car that has trucks underneath it. This is a Canadian Pacific. So what do you do when you have two four-wheel trucks? You simply attach the trucks to the bottom of the frame, and you attach the coupler to the bottom of the trucks. And as you can see, nice that this white rag is here. You can see that it's a tab and slot. Same thing in the front, obviously. So these are a little more difficult to hook up for kids, the ones with trucks, but they're not that bad. You get used to them. I got used to them when I was a kid. And here you will see the black and silver litho of the 1935 Marx set, except this was made in 1936, and I'm assuming they had extra frames because these are all tab and slot. These will not bunch up against each other. So now you know what joyline trains look like, and what tab and slot couplers, the history of them and the progression of them, and why the joyline couplers slide in and out, and why some of the tab and slot couplers slide in and out of the frames or shells. So I didn't know. I had to ask somebody. And fortunately I belong to some Marx groups where the guys are really friendly and they're always willing to help answer questions. I think a lot of them are retired like myself, and they enjoy knowing the answer to the question and sharing it. And that's what I enjoy doing, sharing it. So bye-bye to 1935 and all our tab and slot, our joyline couplers and our tab and slot coupler trains. And once again, this has been a Big Lizard production. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.